It's your native Flor-xan, and today is baby back rib day. That's right, folks. I got home from work, got the pit rolling, decided let's do some ribs. So let's get into it. All right, so here we got, folks, just a regular rack of baby backs. We're gonna trim some of this fat off. And then I'm also going to remove this skin right here. Now, I know there's a lot of debate on there. People say leave it on, it retains moisture. Others say take it off because it lets more smoke get into the meat. Well, let's get more smoke into the meat type guy. So what I'm gonna do is just take a butter knife and get right here on top of one of them bones and just kind of push that dude up in there and pull it away from the bone. Just like so. Well, I don't rip it. That's the thing about it. If you tear it, just go to the other side. Remove it from the other side, but you want it to where you can get your finger up underneath there, and then I'll pull it away like so. And another little trick is take a paper towel, grab that skin, hold it tightly with that towel. Let me get another bite on that. And there you go. Pull it straight off. Now we got that exposed. I think I'm gonna go ahead and trim this little flap off here. That'll be a Scooby snack for later. I'm gonna flip it over, and then I wanna kind of square this end up a little bit. Just to make it a little more uniform. More Scooby snacks. So we'll throw them on the pit too. I really don't like this flap here. So I'm gonna trim that off to the Scooby snack pile, and then after that, here we go. So we kind of got it evened up, ready to go. So now let's get to seasoning. All right, folks, so how I like to season it is I'm gonna take a little olive oil and just kind of drizzle it on there, and then I'm gonna rub it all over that meat. Then we're gonna do the underside the same way. And what this does is help all of our seasoning adhere real well. I don't know if it helps with the cooking process, but this is just the way I've done it. I've heard people say, oh, well, the oil kind of helps fry the meat and it'll make it tough. I've never had that issue. So I'm gonna take what we got on my hand here and put it on our Scooby snacks. That's my hand. I mentioned it in one of my other videos how I don't like having stuff on my hands. Alright, so what I got here is some True Texas barbecue. This is sweet heat. Now I know I've been kind of talking about the suckle busters on pork, but on ribs I really like this sweet heat. It adds a good sweetness, especially the kind of sweetness if you like your ribs a little sweet. Plus it's got just a hint of heat, not overpowering. It's not going to send you to the refrigerator to get a glass of milk type heat, but it's got just enough to make it good. So we're going to coat that side real good. And then I like to layer it with some of my house seasoning. Again, it's just black pepper, salt, onion powder, and garlic powder. And we're just going to try to put just a little bit on that, catch the end of them bones. Then we'll let that sit for a few minutes. We'll flip it over and catch that other side. Alright folks, so that's set for a couple of minutes. We're going to flip that side over and repeat what we got. If you got a little flap like this, catch it underneath that flap. That's on any kind of meat. Whoop. There we go. Get that coated good. Now we're going to put a light drizzle of that house seasoning. Pat it down. Okay folks, so we're all seasoned up. The only thing I did is I went ahead and split the ribs in half. So when I put them on my pit, you know, I talked in my last video about that fire cup being in the middle of the pit. And so I could put them up on the top rack, but for visual purposes and being able to show y'all, I didn't want to do it that way. It's a lot easier to film it down. So I think we're gonna just cut them in half, film it down, and then roll with it like that. So next stop, we'll go to the pit. Oh man, I almost forgot to season them Scooby snacks. Gotta have them. Alright folks, we'll set them both on this end. I got the pit set at 250. Our Scooby snacks here. So pit set at 250. We'll let these run for a couple of hours. And we'll probably flip them at least once, mop them, and then flip them back over. But we're probably looking at a 2.5 hour cook. Alright folks, so at about a half an hour I flipped them over. We're going to let them run a little bit like this, and then we'll come back and put a little sauce on them, and then flip them back over in about a half hour's time. Scooby snacks are looking good. Alright folks, starting to take on a little color, so we're going to go ahead and mop them. Now this is the same style mop I did in my last video on the pulled pork. If you haven't seen that video, I'll put a link to that down in the description of this video. But again, we're not going to touch the meat. We're just going to kind of lightly drizzle this on here, just to give it a little bit of coating. That all covered, and then we'll catch our Scooby snacks. Those should be getting pretty close to being done themselves. Alright, we're going to close her up and let her run. We'll check them in about another 30 minutes. Almost forgot my Scooby snacks. Get them off of there. Give them a taste. Tell you what, that Scooby snack, don't hold it over your head, because your tongue will beat your brains out trying to get to it. How's it go right there? Alright folks, let's take a look and see what we got here. Oh yeah, we're starting to get a good mahogany on them. I'll go ahead and put a little more mop on them. checking temperature here. Well, find me a spot. There we go. About 170. And there's a little bit more. We're probably gonna move that one back. It's one above 190. So we're gonna let them run a little bit. Let that mop settle in on them, and then we're probably going to pan them up, put our little bit of glaze on them, and finish them off. Alright folks, right at 2 hour mark. These are looking pretty damn gum good if my mouth will stay. What I'm going to do, get this mount fixed here, is I'm going to take, I've got some orange blossom honey I picked up while we were in Florida here, and I'm just going to kind of drizzle that on there just to kind of glaze over these ribs. Back on the pit here and let them run about another 30 minutes. Alright folks, so we got our finished product here. So these were on the pit exactly 2.5 hours at 250, and you can see how they kind of drew up on that bone a little bit, and then how shiny that glaze, that honey glaze, turned out. So I'm gonna let them cool just a very little bit, let that glaze set, and then we're going to try to cut them up without ruining the glaze that we put on top of there. Alright folks, so we let them cool a little bit, and I'm going to see if I can cut these without ruining. I'm just taking the heel of my knife and getting in between the bones and then pushing down and forward. So I'm going to grab this one in the middle here. You can kind of see we got a nice smoke ring on top and bottom. And you can still see, or at least I hope you can see in that camera. Let me see if I can. That rib is plenty moist in there. So I'm going to keep taking the membrane off the bottom. But I'm gonna grab this M one here and give it a taste. Alright folks, here we go. We'll see if they're any good. Meat pulls right off the bone. Nice and tender. You know, I was making these for some co-workers. They may not get them. I don't know, we'll see. Alright, so I didn't want to be eating in front of y'all, but you can see that bone come pretty clean. So, hey look, again, this is just me showing you how I do things. I do these hopefully to help somebody else that might be struggling with cooking a little something. And I got to thinking, you know, there's several cheap cuts of meat that I like to cook. Not so much because they're cheap, because there's a little bit of a challenge to some of them, and I plan on doing those in some of my future videos. So hopefully you subscribed and rung the bell so you'll get notifications when them videos come out. But other than that, I really appreciate you watching, and we'll see you on the next one.